Okay, welcome to this episode, a very special episode of the Blue Abroad show, as we really have another embodiment of Blue Abroad. I've got Ewan from Canada, who is, I guess, Ewan, maybe you can introduce yourself and tell us who you are and where you're from, but welcome, mate.
Thanks for having me. It's pretty cold out here in Toronto, Canada. I know it's a bit of midsummer there, but yeah, we're right in the thick of winter here. So we're kind of in the middle of our preseason. Is very different from what you get over there. So yeah, part of the Toronto Central Blues, obviously based off of the founder of the club, who was a fan of the Carlton Blues.
The Mighty Blue.
Canadian. He, Bruce Parker, and Rob Chapman founded this club in 2005. But the first year that they played was in 2006. We're part of AFL Ontario, which is the province of Ontario, so the state league basically. But it's footy in Canada, so it's incredibly unpredictable. It's every year is different. You meet so many people, but it's pretty random because it's footy in Canada. But yeah, so the club, as you can see, yeah, Central Blues, founded in 2006 was the first year. We're now in our 15th year.
Yeah.
We have a men's and a women's team. We actually were the first club in Ontario to have a women's team. It started in 2009, so now we've got two full-fledged teams going right now.
Mate, it's phenomenal. First of all, I want to congratulate everyone who's been a part of the organisation there for bringing it to what it is. I just find it so unique to see our logo sort of infused with with the Canadian flavour in there. I mean, for me, this is, I don't know, I've lived overseas, as you know. We've spoken a little bit off camera, and we started a footy team in Israel when I got there. And for me, being an expat, that was really, I guess, when you move to a country where you have no friends, you don't know anyone, that's usually the first thing you want to try and do is, right, where are the Aussies? Let's kick a footy and let's go from there. So to see, I guess, I was in Israel for 2 years and we had the inception of the team there, and to see what that journey can look like after, 10, 15 years is phenomenal. So I have so many questions, but take me back to the beginning for you. How did you get involved, and just give us a little bit of an idea as to what the landscape is like there? Because you did mention you have a few teams and a women's side as well, but yeah, go right ahead.
Yeah, so I guess personally, Canadian born and raised. However, my mom is from Central Victoria, from Castlemaine, of all places.
Yep.
So, yeah, I was aware of the game. Spent some time in Geelong when I was sort of a young teenager. Never played the game. Sort of almost completely forgot about it. And somehow, when I moved to Toronto in 2007, I think I found it on Wikipedia, of all places, that there was a league, and decided to try it out as someone almost. So I started as almost as a 30-year-old rookie, which is, I don't recommend, because the body just does not function the way it should be at that age. But so for me, that was, I guess, upwards of 12, 13 years ago. Joined the Blues, who at the time was in their second season. So I joined in 2007. Hadn't team had never won a game, had a bunch of misfits, as we'd probably call them at the time. All walks of life. So those that were from Australia had played before. From Australia had never played before. People who had seen, footy on the TV at 3 a.m. on our local sports channel and said, "What the hell is this sport?
What is this monstrosity?"
And then just eventually, found an avenue to connect with the team. So yeah, it's almost like a bit of almost a lifelong love affair with this club and this sport. Unfortunately, yeah, got to know it way too late in life, but it's been a huge part of my life. In terms of so AFL Canada, if you can believe there is such a thing.
Yep.
Obviously, they're all sort of trickled down from the AFL itself. But actually, I believe the first league in Canada was AFL Ontario, so the province of Ontario. It started in 1989. There was, I believe, 2 clubs, and they probably played each other numerous times throughout the season, but they just kept at it. So that's, I think, about 31 years ago. So fluctuating number of teams, both men's and women's. Right now we're at 8 men's teams.
Wow.
Again, yeah, fluctuates sort of between 8 and 12, just depending on. Actually, it's pretty unpredictable. I'll put it that way. But
Yeah, but look, I get it. I mean, for us, obviously in Israel, we had initially it was really just a social gathering. You know, go to the park on a Monday night after work and kick a footy with the boys. Obviously, at the time, we didn't have a women's team, so it was just at the time. So, and in my experience, as I mentioned before, it was a way to sort of make new friends and keep in touch with my roots here in Melbourne. And I'm a big Carlton fan, so it was a good way for me to just stay connected with the sport. And then over time, obviously, once the numbers grew, you get to the point where you kind of think, well, can we play a game? And then, one game becomes the second game after a few months, and, the second game becomes the third. And all of a sudden, you have good numbers and you go to that second team. So you have 8 teams, as you said. Is there a league and a competition, and how is it run? Like, what day do you play and where do you play? Give me the rundown.
Yeah, so for some reason, which I will never understand, the biggest amateur Australian football league outside of Australia is based in Ontario. I don't know why. You would think maybe London or somewhere in maybe Dublin, where there's a big expat population. But the thing is, with the league here, of course, there's probably about 40 sort of teams, men's and women's, across Canada. Mm-hmm. But you'll find other markets that have 1 or 2 teams, so they end up having to travel a lot just because there aren't teams that are nearby to play. So the US AFL, I believe it's called, they're similar. Again, they're 350 million people. We're about 36 million people, so they clearly have a lot more teams, but not a large league. So they're spread across the country. And if you've ever looked at their schedules, you'll see that they're traveling almost, every weekend when they want to have a game. Because in New York City, how many millions of people there, but there's only 1 team. So Toronto or Ontario. So Toronto, may have heard of Ottawa or Hamilton. So some of these other towns, we have clubs in those cities. It's so right now it's about minus 10 degrees outside. So snow on the ground. Can't exactly train outdoors. So this is our preseason, but we really only have sort of a few hours a week to train indoors under basically a synthetic field that's covered with the dome, so it's heated. But you can imagine all the soccer teams, all the gridiron teams, all the rugby teams, they all want time and space. So we take what we can get. So right now our preseason is only a few hours a week on a Saturday, just to get people, just to keep a touch on the ball, basically.
Of course.
So
and then when you play, are you playing on a rectangular pitch?
So actually, the other thing with Toronto, we have the only full-time Australian football pitch in Canada. It's got the posts are up all year round.
Wow.
It's a big ground, so full oval as best as we can do. Obviously, some of the smaller, I guess, cities. I know in Montreal they play in a soccer field size, but here we try to actually play 18-a-side men's games in this league, the AFL Ontario League. So yeah, I always try to chat with some of the Aussies that come through and just say, like, what I'm sure your expectations are differ between people I talk to, but they're always sort of surprised level competitiveness and just the commitment of basically the Canadians, because our league right now is really built on Canadians. That's sort of the key to success in this league, in this country.
Yeah, you've got to have the buy-in from the locals for sure. I mean, because the reality with expats is they're not always permanent. They go. They might be there for 2 years in my case, or they might be there for 10 years.
They might be there for one game. Yeah, we get that too.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, I go to Shanghai every year for the footy, and I end up a game or two with the Shanghai team. And again, like you said, I'm just in Shanghai probably 2 weeks every year, and I go to one training session. I play one game with them. But it's very interesting. I didn't know that you guys had a full-sized ground, because I've only played, when I've played outside of Australia, it's only ever been, the rugby pitch, or in China it was an oval, but it was a lot more smaller. And it wasn't, definitely was not 18-a-side. So you're getting the full experience, and that's the beauty of the game. I think the beauty of the game is probably seen and appreciated a little bit more outside of Australia by people who've grown up with it, because it's really the ultimate combination of mateship, and there's sort of like there's a humbleness to it. And talk to me a little bit about the culture of your team and your club, and what's the group like? How are you performing? And what's the expectation for the upcoming season?
Yeah, so again, this is entering our 15th year. The women, I think, so full time, there was, I guess, enough teams to compete probably within the past years. Currently five women's teams in the province of Ontario as well. So again, each year is incredibly unpredictable, as we were just talking about. Never know who's going to rock up, never know who's going to be on a gap year and just be popping by, or someone may end up being here for life. So we've had everything from, as I said, people that show up for a few weeks and end up playing one game, and then we have people that end up marrying a Canadian and they're here for good. So everything in between, and that it's like that for every team. So it's really unpredictable to sort of get a gauge on the season, which, I mean, it's kind of fun, but a little difficult to deal with at the same time. But so, and again, we have got a new Aussie coming out. He's probably about 20, and then we have other players that are in their late 40s. So 20 plus age span, both men and women. Obviously, Bruce Parker and Rob Chapman started the club, knowing full well that it would take some time to develop and, I guess, build a base of players.
Yep.
The difficulty here is just simply the people not knowing what the heck it is.
Yeah.
I've had coworkers that I've worked with for 10 years that I've stopped correcting them when they ask me how my rugby is going. I just say, rugby's good. It's fine. I've just sent them enough YouTube videos and tried to explain it so many times that it does not compute. So,
mate, the amount of times I've shown that the YouTube video titled,
5-minute one, right?
Yeah, the 5-minute one, the What is AFL? I'm not kidding you. I think I've shown that to people in the world, and I'm not exaggerating. I'm going to say anywhere between 65 to 80 times in my life. Like I
I would say I'm probably second in line. I'm close behind you. And just coworkers and just family members. Yeah, people that are new to the sport. Yeah, it took them a while to actually create some content, and thank goodness they made that video because it's very helpful. But
Yeah, I agree. I think the next step for them is to create the video in different languages, because obviously in China, if a lot of my friends could speak English,
yeah,
not very fluently, so to either have Chinese subtitles or even Israelis to have it in Hebrew, for example.
right.
I think that's the next step. What position do you play?
I am a started as a wingman.
Yep.
Gained a bit too much weight, so now I'm playing in the sleep. Again, the league is really built off of the Canadians. So there is actually a rule. So we try to play 18 aside.
Yeah.
There is a rule in place that says maximum 8 Australians can be dressed to play.
Okay.
And there's 6 Australians on the field at one time.
Okay.
So that means, during any point of the game, there should be 12 Canadians or 12 internationals, we'll call them, excluding or non-Australians. There are 12 non-Australians on the field and 6 Aussies. So it's just not, I guess, a league driven by like the Aussie superstars that come over. So it is different in other parts of the country. I think BC, they have a different ratio of players. They have more Aussies. But Ontario, yeah, you really need to build up your core of Canadian players to really be able to compete.
Yeah. Talk to me about what the experience is like watching the AFL over there. Talk to me about the time difference, and because for me there was an 8-hour difference, so I was getting up at 5:30 on a Saturday morning to watch the 12:30 or the 1 o'clock game here in Australia. So what's it like for you guys? What's the time difference, and when are you watching the game?
It's currently we are, let's see, we are 16 hours behind Melbourne.
Okay. Wow.
Differing, we're massive country, so probably not as vast as that in Vancouver, which is like a 6-hour flight west of here. So but yeah, so games typically, unfortunately for us, are sort of live to air at 3, 4, 5 a.m.
Wow.
Not ideal. So thankfully, AFL app has been helpful for us, but we do, of course, stay up and watch AFL or the grand final and the women's or AFLW women's grand final live as well. But TSN, which is the local sports network here, they do show one game a week delayed on a Saturday. So maybe at sort of 1 p.m. on a Saturday on some obscure channel, kind of like an ESPN 5, that kind of thing. So
like the Ocho, ESPN 8, the Ocho.
Exactly. So that kind of thing. So one game per week. It's usually pretty random, but a lot of people try to get people to watch using the Watch AFL website.
Yeah. Personal question, just with your footy experience, who's your favorite player in the league? And yeah.
Dude, on this jumper, but I'm actually a membership carrying Geelong Cats fan.
I did that, and I was hoping you wouldn't bring that up, but at the end of the day, you do wear our emblem, so we'll take you in for that. So I'm assuming you're a Dangerfield, Ablett, Selwood kind of guy.
Danger. I like the unsung heroes too. The lot of guys that are retired, the James Kellys and the David Wojcinski kind of players that only amassed 15 possessions, but they're spectacular. Good ball users, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I'm a huge Cade Simpson fan simply because I love long sleeves, and he just looks so skinny, and he somehow just dominates. I love, for the Blues, Cade Simpson is probably my number one.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, that's cool. That's really cool to see. Mate, first of all, I want to thank you for taking the time to chat with me. It's it's been really enjoyable. And as for someone who's been, on the outside of the country trying to grow the game and playing it outside,
Yeah.
I can relate to some of the, just the themes that come up, the unpredictability, week to week, you don't know what the turnout's going to be like, but I've
Yeah.
never really experienced, a fully fledged league like what you have. So I can tell you now, I will, at some point in time in my life, I will be there to visit you guys and
Right on. Yeah.
come and check out, come to a training session and kick the skin around and have a bit of banter and go for a beer afterwards and see how you guys do it.
Keep you posted how we go. I know, as I mentioned before, Aussie's always coming through, but I could promise you we could pay you nothing. There's no match payments in the league. We're all amateurs. We'll help you find work or accommodation if you want. But it's just for the love of the game here, for sure.
So before I let you go, tell me about where can the audience find you online? I mean, obviously I've seen your Instagram, but where can we find you to follow your journey?
I would say I think everything is linkable through the website, which is bluesafc.ca.
Okay.
So I don't know where .com would take you, but do bluesafc.ca, and there should be links to all of our social networks there. And again, as you're doing yourself, trying to create content all the time. Not easy here in Canada because, again, people don't know what the hell Aussie rules is, but we do the best we can, even when it's minus 10 degrees outside.
Yeah. Well, look, mate, you're welcome on the show anytime you like. It'd be good to touch base with you maybe mid-season once we have the bye. We can see where you guys are going for the year, and I'd love to track the season for you. Hopefully we can have a navy blue premiership in Canada.
Oh, we did win it in 2010. We won it, and then fell a bit short in 2014. But yeah, that's the hope every season.
2020 vision, baby. I like it.
Yeah. Sounds good, mate.
All right, mate. Great to meet you, and all the best.
All right, thanks a lot. Cheers.